Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities ETFs that I follow. If you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. We've got a 7 a.m. question and answer session coming up tomorrow, which is Saturday. And I've got some stuff I want to talk about in the beginning of that Q&A. Sometimes I call it training, but it's my viewpoint on how I view companies, how money and commodities and pricing gets to you as a shareholder. And then we're going to dive into nat gas and do a little bit of a deep dive into nat gas and some of the fundamentals for natural gas over the long term. So let's dive in here. I'll share my opinions on the markets here, and let's see what's going on today. So we've got the DXY, and still looks good to go higher. I mean, yeah, we've pulled back the past few days, but this still looks good to continue higher. And what I'm basing that off of is we have no reversal candlestick here. We've got 3 down candlesticks in basically this up candlestick. So it's taking more days, more time, more selling to leak out of this thing than it takes for it to move up. So path of least resistance is higher. There are more buyers than sellers, so to speak. When you look at a stock, when we see this, the DXY, it's a little bit different, but still looks good to go higher, is what I see in this chart. The 2-year is moving on up. We got a little bit of selling resistance. We got a little wick at the top there. And again, we'll see what occurs over the next few trading sessions, but it still has momentum to the upside. This can sometimes be a reversal candlestick. It's basically an inverted hammer candlestick where you come on up and then it sells off throughout the day, but it's still holding steady. So again, we'll probably need a little bit more time. This is on the monthly. The monthly looks fantastic to go higher in terms of yields. So let's see where it goes. The momentum is still to the upside. And then the TNX, a little bit of a wick at the top, but again, still looks good to work its way on up. We could get a couple more sideways days. You know, we are bouncing around and maybe we head on higher. Again, I don't know the short term, but the momentum's to the upside. TYX, the 30-year, also to the upside still. No reversal candlesticks yet. TYX TNX ratio still staying inverted. So we inverted a little bit today, which is generally a headwind for gold, but gold was up higher today. It looks pretty good, actually. TLT also down, and we're underneath resistance. I still think that the momentum's to the downside here for TLT, which means bond prices could potentially head lower. Gold, so gold, we were up today in the face of increasing interest rates, which is a good thing for gold. But it needs to continue to head higher for me to be convinced that gold can work its way on up in the face of increasing interest rates. Silver ribbon it up 2.2%, breaking out of its downtrend line here. That actually looks really good, and I hope that we can break this larger downtrend line. If we can break that, we're going to be in business. But right now, we've broken the first resistance line, which is always a good thing, and the next one on our plate's about 24.25. Platinum up a little bit, looking good. Let's hope the momentum can continue. That's looking pretty good for platinum. And then palladium, we were down a little bit today, but still trying to put in a big bottom. It's just a big bottom that we're putting in for palladium. XAU to gold ratio, we were down a little bit where gold and silver mining companies are underperforming gold itself. You know, I'm not convinced that we are ready to rip higher yet. We've broken out of this to the downside. This was your trend line. We were using it as support. We broke down. That was that day that consumer price index was released. And then we're coming back up. This could be a retest here where we actually go lower for the XAU to gold ratio, which means gold and silver mining companies could underperform gold itself. And what that tells me makes me think that we're going to have higher interest rates. And the interest rates look like they could go higher. And then we've got a confluence of information with the XAU gold ratio validating that viewpoint. So it's more information that yields will probably go on up. and we could see further weakness in XAU to gold if this rolls on over, which I think has a high probability of doing it. CRB index moving on up because oil was up. So that's looking good. And we've got some momentum to the upside. Broken downtrend looks good. We've got CRB to S&P 500, which is up, which also would support an increasing yield environment, kind of like this environment here. And this was our wave two pullback, and I'm looking for a move up. I'm looking for a move higher based off of interest rates and oil. Those are the two things I'm basing off of. GDX, again, we've got some momentum coming down. This here is a flag pattern that we've broken to the downside. Again, I'm not seeing reversal candlesticks here. This looks like to me that we are open for a potential move lower. You can kind of look at it like this. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And we've got larger selling pressure than buying pressure moving on up. GDXJ has the same type of setup. It's a larger down move than the bounce. And SILJ, again, we've broken to the downside here. And I got to be convinced. We got to see some buying pressure. We got to see a reversal candlestick. I got to see something, guys. I got to see something. Otherwise, momentum still to the downside. Crude oil is up 0.88%. We are trying to break through this strong resistance line. Now, again, this all is interconnected. All of these charts we are looking at are interconnected to a larger signal. The signal is rates. If rates go up, and I don't think rates are driving this. I think this crude oil is really driving rates. So, yeah, we had the consumer price index. Yes, it was driven a lot by rent. But if oil starts to rip here, that will be future inflation. It'll be delayed to some degree in the numbers because all the numbers are lagged behind it. So maybe maybe if we get crude oil going up to 80, 90 bucks a barrel here, coming up here, and if we start breaking all of this, I mean, it could run as well. And there could be other underlying factors that I don't know and can't explain at this time. It could be war, it could be potential liquidity of some sort. Maybe has something to do with the fiscal spending and the deficit spending that the government's doing. But we're right there trying to break out to the upside. And this looks pretty good. And rates are agreeing with me. TTF is down a little bit, 1.7, 1.2 something percent there. Momentum still to the downside. We could maybe extend this downtrend line. Maybe we have a breakout and a retest. Nat gas in America up 1.77%, breaking the streak of continuous selling pressure. But again, this is going to take some time to bottom out, and I am looking at natural gas actively to see where this thing could potentially bottom. I would be looking at potential investments down here. That's what I would be doing. XOP, yeah, you know me, it was slightly up today, but that is a bloody nose, which is generally a continuation pattern to the upside. It's basically a small profit taking day. So still looks good. You can throw a little, breakout there. So it looks good. And it's possible that we even get a return move like that. It's possible. OIH is flat today. It's a bloody nose right at resistance. So I think that we have the potential to break through here. And if oil breaks through its neckline there, I think OIH and XOP are going to go higher. And OIH is probably one of the cheapest sectors out there still. This is very, very cheap. And I think we could go a very long way to the upside with energy service companies when looking at the fundamentals. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust down a little bit, losing a little bit. No, it's right on support. We'll see. We'll see. It's holding in there. It's looking all right. We need to see buying pressure, guys. Get some buying pressure to turn this thing around. URA, a little bit of selling pressure there still, down 0.86%. We're at, there's some good support through here, a little bit of selling pressure all through there. So, but again, we got to see some reversal candlesticks. The momentum is still to the downside until I see that. URNM, it's right on support for the most part. It's holding in there. Momentum's to the downside, and we'll see if we can turn this thing around. URNJ, same thing. It's the same type of setup. Momentum's to the downside, but it's not like blowing through any sort of support or anything. It's still sitting on top of everything. Can we're underneath resistance, and if rates go up, I do think that it could potentially go sideways to lower or TAN. We've got copper that looks pretty solid today. Look at that big candlestick. This thing is still squeezing up, and we could very much break through this and start moving on higher. I know there's deficits. I know inventories are low. I think we're going to go higher. And I think it's driven by the supply side. This is all supply side now. So again, we'll see which way it breaks. We are still early on that. It did enter this from the top side down, which is generally bearish. That's generally a continuation pattern, but we'll see. And then we've got COPX up 2.4%. Looks good to go higher. It does look like we are breaking a downtrend line on the shorter term here, or pretty close to it. We'll see. Something like that. You can see that we're breaking some downtrend line there, but looks good. Continue higher. Lithium up 2.7%, surprisingly against increasing interest rates. It's holding in there. It looks actually not that bad. Starting to turn around. It looks good. REMX is starting to turn around too. This also looks pretty good. Looks like we've kind of breaking a little bit of a inverted head and shoulders there. So let's hope that continues to move higher. It looks pretty solid down here at $50 a share. S&P 500 getting a little bit of selling pressure. Almost look like it's turning into a bearish engulfing. We'll see where this goes over the next few days. It's looking a little bit toppy to me. NASDAQ also putting in a bearish engulfing, which generally could start a move lower. You could see it move sideways and then move lower. But if we start putting in large selling pressure candlesticks up here, that would indicate that we could be potentially topping. We are early in that topping process, so it might take a little bit of time. We might go sideways for a little bit before that occurs. KRE down 1%. We're right underneath resistance. Again, increasing yields, a little bit of a headwind. Still looks good to try to break and go higher. Emerging markets moving on up, looking pretty solid in my opinion, and I think we could eventually break out of this big consolidation area. Big consolidation area there. Eventually. XHB down 1.2%. It still looks good to go higher. Still looks good to go higher. Not much selling pressure there. No reversal candlesticks. Moo still moving sideways. It's basing out above support of $69. There's your support. It's right on top of it. It's actually a good spot to be looking. We've got iron ore down. Well, it's basically flat to be honest. Still, looks like we've got like a little squeeze up where we could head a little bit lower in the short term for iron ore. It's much like this. It's basically a flag pattern, and we're stair stepping lower, and this could head a little bit lower in the short term. We've got aluminum slightly lower, higher yields, right on support. We've got Baltic Dry Index down slightly, but it's just been moving sideways the past few days. It's hanging in there. If we don't get a big move here, this could be a continuation pattern lower, where come on down and it's a flag pattern to the downside if it doesn't get moving. We've got Newcastle coal futures moving sideways down 0.8%, and it's still basing out with natural gas most likely. We've got Bitcoin working its way on up 1%. A little bit of sideways action, still looks good to go higher. It's not a reversal candlestick, at least not yet. And then Ethereum down 1.5%. Still looks okay. It's not, this isn't a reversal candlestick yet. There's got to be follow through if there is, but still looks good to go higher. Momentum's to the upside for both of those. And I've got one stock in here. This is a tech stock. People are, this is all over Twitter. Super Micro Computer Incorporated. This, in my opinion, is what a top looks like. You get a big wick at the top like this. You get a big reversal candlestick that looks like that. This is a bearish engulfing here. This to me looks like it wants to go lower. So the way that I do a lot of these things is you want to look at the individual companies like SMCI here with this big bearish engulfing today. And this could get some volatility like that or heading lower. This to me looks like it's reversing lower. And then that ties into my views on the NASDAQ and ties into my views on the S&P 500. Because if these are putting in topping patterns, then you want to start to look at potential lower moves here. This is Apple. And Apple could eventually be topping out too. We've got Nvidia. We can look at that one. You can see a bearish engulfing here starting to form at the top. Now, I'm not saying that this is for surely the top. We want to look and monitor to see if these candlesticks get bigger. We get a little bit more volatility where people start offloading shares en masse at the peak. So, yeah, that's some stuff to kind of look at there. That I wanted to add in. So that's what I've got for today. Thumb up for the content, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the website if you guys like. We still have LEAP, it's leap year. It's November. We've got 29 days this month. So you can use that as a discount if you'd like. It's a big discount on the yearly membership. It's a smaller discount just to try it out if you'd like on the monthly. If you want to try the monthly and you like it, you can always swap to the yearly if that discount is available. So that's what we've got for today. My opinions are, well, I want to see oil break. That's what I want to see. And I want to see nat gas bottom here over the next few months. That is where I think the opportunities are. I might do a ratio update coming up for this weekend, in particular to those things. You can see what my opinions are with that and how cheap natural gas is right now. It is very cheap. But that's what I've got for today. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow at the question and answer session if you're a member. All right, guys. Catch you later. This is Finding Value.